Well, hello there. Good to see you all, and welcome to the stream during which I'm going to record my weekly show. I've just finished editing my reaction video to the Star Wars trailer, the Star Wars 9 trailer. And of course, in this episode, we will talk at length about what we've seen, although I'll try to keep it spoiler-free, although I don't know many spoilers anyway, so... but we need to address that. And of course, I also reacted to the trailer for the upcoming show, The Mandalorian, on Disney+. As usual, feel free to leave your reactions in the chat. I can see that the video has some hiccups, but that's probably because the connection. I'm filming this with the phone, and so it's not always working perfectly. I hope that the image will remain stable for the duration of the episode. All right, I'm already working overtime. Actually, I should have been home for about half a day, but because of the Star Wars trailer, I just had to stay longer, and everything got postponed, but that's for a good cause. So I'll try to start recording, and I'll get back to your questions and comments in the chat at the end of the show. So here we go. Do I have my show notes? Let's put the show notes in place before I start. Where are the show notes? Here they are. Excellent. Very well. Hello and welcome to my weekly show. I'm Father Roderick, and I'm just still reeling from having seen the new Star Wars Episode 9 trailer. It was premiered at the D23 Expo in Anaheim. And of course, I had to record a reaction video, so we'll talk about it in this show and about way more than that. This episode is brought to you thanks to my patrons over at patreon.com/Father Roderick. I thank them with all my heart for all their support. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this work.
Do you know what's going on? This is what's happening in your world.
Face it, Catholics rule. We got Boston, South America, the good part of Ireland, and we're making serious inroads in Mozambique, baby.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
So that's Star Wars trailer. I'm not even sure if this is technically a trailer. Disney and Lucasfilm have posted it as a special footage or something like that, or special reel. But it looks like a trailer. It feels like a trailer. So we get to see a lot of the images from previous episodes in the Star Wars saga, in the Skywalker saga, and then it shows us new footage from Episode 9, and I was blown away, like almost anyone else who has seen it, and some pretty shocking stuff in that trailer as well. There are tons of ideas that I have, speculation, plot ideas. But on the other hand, I think the trailer did a very good job in kind of obfuscating what is truly going on and what we will see. And as usual, once you've seen the movie, you realize that the trailer showed you almost nothing. But it was a really, really great experience. And we've been waiting such a long time to see new stuff from Star Wars 9. And I think they did a really good job keeping everything under wraps. I haven't seen any shocking leaks so far. And this trailer opens up a lot of possibilities, and it does what a trailer should do, and that is to make you curious enough to go see this movie. And visually, I have to say, it does everything it needs to do. It feels very much in line with all the other trailers that we've seen with the previous two movies of this J.J. Abrams trilogy. Well, technically it's not a J.J. Abrams trilogy, but he did the first one and this one, the last one. But it also shows us a lot of stuff that we've never seen before, at least not on the movie screen. And that is also what we expect from Star Wars. It needs to feel familiar, and it also should surprise us. And wow, this trailer certainly did that. So check out my reaction video over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Father Roderick. And that's where you also will find a short reaction video to the trailer for The Mandalorian, which is the new Star Wars themed TV show that is coming to Disney Plus when it premieres on November 12th. I heard, by the way, that Disney is going to release that series episode per episode. So every week there will be a new episode. Instead of doing the binge like giving us all the episodes at once so that we can binge watch. And I think that's good because it will give us a week to talk about it, to podcast about it, to re-watch it several times per episode. And I think that that a lot of the successful series like Stranger Things, Stranger Things actually gave us all the episodes at once. But Game of Thrones, for instance, that's on a weekly basis. So they're even like in the middle of a season you would have a hiatus. So The Mandalorian will keep us busy for at least half a year, and that's good because the more Star Wars, the merrier. And wow, it's gonna be an exciting wait for Episode 9, and hopefully we will. I have to say, if I'm honest, I was almost sad when I watched the trailer, not because it was bad in any way, but because you realize this is the end of the Skywalker saga. This is the end of the adventures of a family and their friends and related family that I grew up with. And that, I think, is going to be the hardest part of going to watch this final Star Wars movie. It's going to be the end of something that has colored and brightened my life since I was a child. And hopefully the new movies and whatever comes next will be able to pick up the pieces of my heart and will bring us something new that can get me excited again. But it's going to be a really hard job following up on Episode 9. While we are looking forward to all these positive things and things that entertain us and give us a good mood, there is also a lot to worry about in the news these days. One of the major things happening right now that could have catastrophic consequences for our planet and for our future of this part of the galaxy is, of course, the forest fires in of the rainforest fires in the Amazon. And Brazil has been heavily criticized, or at least the government has been heavily criticized for kind of condoning what's going on. And you feel so powerless because what can you do? I can go there and extinguish these fires. But then I read an interesting article that actually gave me hope that there is something, even though it's small, that I can do. And for that, you have to go to the root of the cause of those forest fires. Of course, not who did it or who set these forests on fire, but why this is happening. And as far as I've been able to read and learn, this is done by people that want to use that ground, that the forest ground, as meadows for cattle. This is to raise cattle and to sell beef, and Brazil is booming. Beef is booming business in Brazil, but most of their beef is exported. And if you look at the list to where this beef is going, most of it, and it's very strange, goes to Japan, to Hong Kong, and then to China, and I think only 20% goes to Europe. And then, of course, the United States has a lot of beef production itself, so that's quite limited. But the thing is, if there wasn't a demand, then there wouldn't be the need for these farmers to burn those forests. And so there is something that we can do, and that is to try to change our consumption habits. And that is true for a lot of things. We can influence the way we treat the world by the choices that we make when we are buying our groceries. And let's not forget that a lot of the ground beef that you buy is usually from a mix of sources. And the cheaper it is, the more likely it is that the beef that you buy is a composite from frozen beef from all over the world. And so make sure you know where your meat is coming from. If possible, and if it's within your budget, of course, see if you can go organic or eat less meat. And in the Netherlands, there is hope that that behaviors are changing. According to a recent news article, in the Netherlands, the meat replacement products, so and anything that you can use instead of meat, it's it's booming right now in the supermarkets, and the Dutch are truly changing their ways, and there is a very visible lowering of the amount of meat that people consume on a yearly basis. Now, of course, for this to really work, this has to be a worldwide change of behavior. And then, of course, the question is that going to happen? I can't influence that, but it gives me hope that at least I can do my part to change my dietary habits. Plus, of course, that is only going to be better for my health. It's going to be better for the planet. So there is something that we can do, and that is to always think before you buy and think before you eat, and ask yourself, can my consumption influence the way that we treat this planet that has been given to us, but that has also been given to us by God for future generations. And we cannot afford to destroy it before they can benefit from its many resources. And with that, it is time to move over to our next segment. And I've already talked a bit about Star Wars, so I won't rehash that. The fact that I put it on the front part of the podcast is that a lot of people that may have seen my reaction video on YouTube will want to check out my podcast, but will not wait for, I don't know, the science fiction segment to listen to my Star Wars review. So instead, I'm going to talk about The Lion King, because I just watched that.
How do you not like movies?
They're predictable. Like, the guy gets the girl, and that kid sees dead people, and Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Not liking movies is like not liking puppies.
They're fine. I just get bored and never make it to the end.
You know, you need a movie education. You need a movication. Now I'm gonna give it to you.
While I was streaming, the image froze, and people in the chat were like, "Did he fall asleep? He's not moving anymore." It's a downside of the current setup, where I'm using my old iPhone to stream the camera footage basically to the computer. And that is because the camera, the M50 that I was using for streaming, I need that for my TV show. So I don't want to kind of disconnect it all the time and set it up. But I really need a second good camera for the podcast streaming. I'm working on it as usual. Let's talk Lion King, because I finally saw I hesitate to say live action version because it's a totally animated movie. But let's say the more realistic version of the famous Lion King story. It's been a massive success for Disney, even though the critics were, critical, saying that the movie didn't really change much. It was very, very much a rehash of what we'd already seen. And in that way, a little bit more disappointing than some of the other remakes that Disney gave us, where they were a little bit more adventurous in modifying the original story. I think that for The Lion King, it's probably the best decision that they made. Of course, I would have loved to have seen some more story changes, but on the other hand, The Lion King is so near and dear to my heart that I didn't mind seeing the same story, just in a better version. And the movie did contain a few new things, and of course, if you watch it like scene by scene, you'll see that almost everything was changed, especially in the way they told the story visually. The animation, of course, is out of this world. And there is even a new song, and there are some other scenes that they even took some stuff from the discarded scenes, the parts that were left on the cutting room floor when they first made the original Lion King movie. And they also took some story beats from the musical that a lot of people love, and so they wanted to kind of pay homage to the success of that incarnation of the story as well. And I think that the end result is magnificent. It was jaw-droppingly beautiful, and what is fascinating is the way they filmed this. So Jon Favreau is at the helm of this movie, and he got an impossible mission, and that is to take that animated classic and turn it into something that looks as if it's a BBC high-budget documentary. And the way he did that, because he's familiar with special effects movies. After all, he did the Jungle Book remake, which I think was a very good starter and gave them confidence enough that they could pull it off with The Lion King as well. But the Jungle Book movie still contained actors, not many and not often. and most of it was filmed on blue or green screen, but at least they had something to film with the camera crew and everything. And so even though most of what you see in the Jungle Book was added later on by Industrial Light and Magic and some other firms undoubtedly, there was still kind of an on-the-ground experience. The director had something to direct. With this movie, everything was digital. Everything was virtual. And so what they did was to create an entire virtual set. They have this huge building. They set up sensors. And they played like a simple version of the animated story. So they pre-animated the entire movie. And they used a very well-known game engine to do that, because nowadays the software that drives these video games that we play is extremely potent, extremely powerful. But of course, it's not a fully rendered version. And then they used virtual reality goggles and I think now my camera has crashed. This is just going from bad to worse. I thought people would be watching this, but now they're watching the screen of my. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna fix this. I shouldn't be using this camera, and maybe I shouldn't be using this phone anymore. So let's go to Kinoni, and there is it back. Yeah, I guess it's back. I'll just leave it on Wi-Fi. Put it here on my desk in case I need to intervene again. But man, this is really annoying. Tech horror story at the end of this show, so stay tuned. Anyway, I assume that Jon Favreau has had his issues also while trying to film The Lion King. But so what they did was they used an actual camera crew, all the people that normally. I'm just while this happened. So the fact that they used real camera crews and used all the conventional techniques as if they were filming in the real world, that is why this movie works so well, and why there are so few moments where you're taking out because you can tell that it's fake. You can tell why it's fake because it's almost too perfect. Africa looks too beautiful. They could set the sun to golden hour for days. Golden hour is when the sun just sets and it starts to set and it gets this beautiful golden color. It's very, very difficult to shoot at golden hour because it's over in 10 minutes. And so oftentimes when they have a scene that should take place in golden hour, it takes them several days to film it. But because everything was happening in the virtual space, they saved about, according to Jon Favreau, they saved a year in production time. So and then he said something, and that made me really excited. He said, "We've been using exactly the same technology while filming The Mandalorian." And because, of course, Jon Favreau is also heading that production. But to know that they've been using this stunning technology to film virtual sets for The Mandalorian makes me hope that I wasn't surprised when watching the trailer for The Mandalorian that it looked like a movie, because they've been using movie techniques all the time to shoot this. And it may also kind of bring live action, at least, Star Wars live action, to a level that few other series could rival. If you want to hear more about the technology behind this, I invite you to listen to the episode of the Empire podcast, which is a British film podcast. I'm trying to look up which episode this is. They did a long interview with Favreau. At least that's what I thought. Maybe this was on another podcast. Hold on, let me go check this. This could have also been on a relatively new podcast that I've discovered, which is called Behind the Screen. That must be it. It's Behind the Screen. It's from The Hollywood Reporter, and it's the episode show archived episodes. The episode from July 19, and it's fascinating. It's a little bit technical, but Jon Favreau is very cool guy to listen to. He always has his stories. He seems so relaxed. I don't know how he pulls it off. I get stressed while recording a podcast with failing technology, and this guy is directing like the biggest box office successes in the world, and he doesn't break a sweat. He is just like enjoying the experience, or at least it seems like he is. So wow. I also, after having seen the movie version or the real life version, I went back and rewatched the animated classic. And even though I still love the songs, I actually love the music better from the original than in the new version. Most of it has to do with unnecessary embellishments from the singers. This is a thing I've been complaining about this during my live YouTube streams while building the Millennium Falcon. In case you're unaware of that, almost every evening I spend about an hour to an hour and a half building Lego sets, and I'm currently working on one of the most challenging Lego sets I've ever built. Technically, definitely the most challenging one. And that's the Millennium Falcon, the collector's edition. It's a massive ship, 19 centimeters in length, I think. And while I'm building, I chat and I talk about stuff. So I made the comment that I felt that the singing nowadays, and this is a trend in pop music in general, is that these singers are showing off. Instead of introducing us to a melody, immediately in the first part of the song, they start to do variations. And that's fine, and there is an old tradition, even in opera, to do that. But it would always happen once the song itself is established, once the melody is there. Towards the end, that's where these singers would go, all overboard in trying to bring the audience to great new heights, and then, of course, they would get standing ovations at everything. Here, it's as if there is no anticipation anymore. It's like, okay, I'm singing this song, I wanted to give you a new take, and so I'm going to do all these embellishments and showing off how well I can sing right from the get-go. And it breaks the song very often, and it makes it less singable. You can't sing along anymore in some cases. And it's a bit, to me, it's a form of vanity. It's like, here, it's not about the song anymore, it's about me as a performer. And not all the songs suffered from that, but a number of them did. Also, the boy who voices the young Simba does that a lot. Whereas the original singer, I think, was much more restrained and better for the musical in general. So I rewatched the original, and what struck me is how much that movie has aged. I remember seeing it in the theaters and thinking, whoa, this is the most groundbreaking animation that I've ever seen. And now I'm watching it and I'm thinking, this looks old-fashioned and empty, especially empty. A lot of the scenes where you see the white plains and everything, I remember that as being completely populated by thousands of animals at once, and you only see like 5 or 6, and it's a lot of it feels very almost primitive. They did a lot of groundbreaking stuff back in the days, but this movie is old, and when you compare it to even hand-drawn animation today, it didn't age well. And I still respect what they did, and I listen to the director's commentary, and it makes you appreciate what they did. But we're spoiled, I guess, with modern day animation. So in that respect, this new Lion King is far superior when it comes to animation, but also even just cinematography. It feels so modern, and it does everything right. And well, I was just blown away. And if that is the beginning of, more productions like this, bring it on. If Star Wars can use this technology, bring it on. I also really appreciated the story again. It's a beautiful story, not just about a son losing his father and betrayal and everything, and power and abuse of power, but there is also a message that was already in the original that has to do with the attitude of, like, if you have power, like a Lion King has, you have to also have moderation, and you can't use it for yourself. You have to use it to serve your the rest of creation, all the other animals, and you have to also you're even though you it seems as if you're on top of the food chain, you're not. You're at the bottom of the food chain. You depend on creation giving you things to eat, and if you overconsume, then it's going to break the circle of life. That is, to me, one of the most important and still most relevant messages of this movie. And if you look at what's happening in Brazil right now, this movie warns against it. Using up all the resources, not thinking about the future, not thinking about other countries, but it's only for your personal gain. And we are, in this scenario, the hyenas that just can't stop eating. And we don't think about the consequences of our behavior either. And so this delicate circle of life, this balance, is something that is very much a part of the concerns of the Catholic Church as well, and of this Pope. And it should be our concern of all of us. And we have to be responsible. If not, well, same thing is going to happen to the world as what is happening in the story of the Lion King. This is also a biblical story, and has a lot of story elements from the great Bible stories like Noah's story. The whole introduction scene shows you almost like all these animals going, in this case, going to the rock, to Pride Rock. But it's almost an identical scene that we've seen in so many depictions of the story of Noah, where all these animals flock together to this other symbol of salvation and God's presence in the world, which is the ark that Noah built. So you have that. There's also definitely Moses in this, of course, and almost any prophet story, because Simba is a reluctant king. He's a reluctant savior. He doesn't want to. Hakuna Matata, I don't care as long as I have fun. And it's gradually that he starts to realize that he has no choice. He is called to take on this leadership and to protect the weak. And first grudgingly and afterwards wholeheartedly, he takes on that role, just like Moses. At first, Moses too was raised elsewhere. And it's only when he's confronted with the misery of his people that he takes responsibility and becomes this leader that is almost a promise of later on Jesus, who will do the same. And of course also Abraham, who leaves his homestead and follows God's will. There are a lot of these stories that are woven into the fabric of this Lion King story. And that's not just because I'm a priest and I'm projecting that on the movie. While I was listening to the director's commentary of the original animated classic, that's what the director said. The Lion King started off as an attempt to do just a cool Africa kind of quasi-documentary. And it's thanks to these biblical stories that the story of the Lion King started to get depth and a meaning beyond just a fairy tale taking place in Africa. So with that in mind, it's cool to kind of rewatch The Lion King and appreciate what they did. I also started watching another animated classic, at least to many geeks, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've been trying to watch this series many times. I mentioned that Prime Video had the entire series on their channel, and then decided to get rid of the first season, which I hadn't finished yet. Plus, they had the DVD version, very, very bad scan of the original, and it looked kind of hazy and full of artifacts. Audio was not too good, so I bit the bullet and bought the Blu-ray set, and it is stunning. It is razor sharp. Not everything like the extras are still in SD, so in let's say DVD resolution, and on a big television set that looks really terrible. But the animation, the actual episodes are fantastic. They look so clean and so beautiful. And I'm not sure if it's the sound or just watching this on the big screen, but it's much easier to follow the story. And I'm really into the first season right now, and I'm loving it. This is an amazing story. And from what I've read, the first season, that's only the beginning. It's getting super epic. And I think that they're actually rebooting the Last Airbender and they did this horrible movie, which wasn't good at all. But there's going to be a reboot of a television series as well. So I hope that they'll be able to pull it off and make us appreciate it just as much as we do the original. And with that, it is time for a visit to the Peculiar Bunch.
Catholics rock!
Here at the Peculiar Bunch, we try to explain this strange, mysterious world of Catholics and priests and whatnot.
Catholics can be a peculiar bunch. No meat on Friday.
Oh, meat? What do they eat? Light bulbs?
No light bulbs. Maybe meat replacements. I think our current Pope would like that. But today I've got a question that was asked to me during my Lego sessions.
Man, you guys got more crazy rules than Blockbuster Video.
Now, a lot of my YouTube followers and podcast listeners know that I am a fan of movies and TV shows, and I always talk about new stuff that I watch. But I also often get these questions, are you allowed to watch that? So yesterday, someone asked, while I was building the Falcon, are priests allowed to watch horror movies with gore and with demonic things in it and spiritism and whatnot? Are you allowed to watch that? And my answer is always the same. Yes, I can watch that. And my bishop couldn't care less if I were watching horror movies or not. Maybe some of my followers would not appreciate that. And I've had my share of criticism over the past 15 years, since I've been podcasting since forever, of people criticizing me for blaming me for being a bad priest or leading people to their damnation because I was talking about Harry Potter or just fantasy, science fiction even for some people is too much. And the rationale is priests should watch pious movies, uplifting movies that benefit the soul and are full of positive messages. I hate those movies. I really can't stand those movies with a message where it's all about educating our souls. And why do I hate it? Not because I'm evil, but because it doesn't reflect our real reality. It does not reflect reality. Even the greatest saints had their moments of darkness, their doubts, their struggles with the devil, their fights, their inconsistencies, their temptations, maybe even their betrayals. Look at the gospel. Look at the apostles. All of them fall. All of them abandon Jesus. And that is part of the story. It's part of the Bible. We tend to forget about the drama that is happening in almost any Bible story. But it's happening and it's described because it teaches us a lesson. It is in there because that is also our life. We also struggle with all these difficult moments and pretending that we're all saintly and pious. It's always a sign of something being totally wrong, actually, under the surface. It's not realistic. I mean, as a priest, I hear confessions. I know what people have to go through and the struggles that they face and the fights they have to fight. And I've learned to completely ignore my first impressions. Sometimes you will meet people and I would admire them. And it's like, oh, it's such a saintly person. And then when we have a conversation, they especially in confession, I learn that these people are just like me, and they too have their struggles. And you can't judge a book by its cover, and it's not even interesting. I mean, what is interesting is how these people cope with what the stuff that is derailing them, and how faith becomes stronger when it is tested. And so the stories that I want to see are stories that are about this battle between good and evil and the struggles that people face. And even stories about betrayal and and stories where the heroes or the protagonists are making the wrong choices, even those can make you reflect upon your own choices. And if you feel like I would never do that, ask yourself, well, but what if you were in that situation and you were not as fortunate as you are? I mean, stories, I think the best stories are stories where everything goes wrong. And that's if a fairy tale would start with, once upon a time, there was a princess and a prince, and they lived long and forever happy. The end. Who would read a story like that? No, it's always like, once upon a time, there was a prince and a dragon, and the dragon destroyed the prince's castle, and then the princess arrived on a horse and slayed the dragon and saved the prince. Or the other way around, depending on which Disney movie you watch. But anyway, you get my point. In the story, things always go wrong. And there's always this moment where it feels like the good guys are winning. And then it's almost a staple ingredient. You think that now the good guys are going to be there. It's all good, happy ending. And then it falls apart even worse. Let's go back to Star Wars. What was the biggest criticism of Star Wars fans on The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi? A lot of that criticism was geared towards Rey. Why? Because Rey seemed to be this all-good person, such a pure soul, so attuned to the Force, such a natural, always choosing the right side. And even when Luke Skywalker, who used to be that hero of all of us, even if he betrays his vocation and reacts out of spite and just for a moment is tempted to kill Kylo, even then Rey is teaching Luke Skywalker a lesson. And we're all like, that is so unrealistic. That's not how the Force works. When is Rey going to be tested? When is she going to face adversity? And of course, yeah, she has her moment where she is longing to know about her parents, just like Harry Potter was looking in the mirror of Erised and just couldn't take his eyes away of his father and mother, even though he knew that he was just watching wish fulfillment, and that would take him away from his real choices that he had to make in life. But then there's Dumbledore that tells him, this is a dangerous mirror. Don't look in it for too long because you'll turn crazy. You have to make choices for the future of you and for your friends, and that's what Harry Potter eventually does. And with Rey, we haven't seen that. She's had this disappointing discovery about the truth of her parents, at least in Kylo Ren's version. But we haven't seen her being tested, other than physically tested by Kylo and in lightsaber duels. But what about the dark side? And that's where this trailer comes in and kind of awakens our worst nightmares. And Rey, the dark side? No way! And I was like, if you look at my reaction, I'm literally yelling, no, because I don't want that to happen to someone that is a hero. But I'm also yelling no because I'm like, here we go again. Why can't anyone be good in this world? Why is evil always winning or seems to win? And it's a frustration that I have in my own life as well. Why, if I try to be good, I still am unable to always make the right choices, and I too hurt people, and I'm egotistic, and nothing in my priestly ordination has protected me against that, because that's not how ordination works. That's not how baptism works. It's all up to you to fight the fight, and it's also a fight within yourself. And so this trailer makes me believe that we finally will get to see Rey being tested like we all are, and that will make her character way more relatable. Now, of course, I still hope that that's not the final choice that she makes, but we'll see. I have a good feeling about this because it's Star Wars. There are some laws of storytelling, and some moral laws that are underpinning this saga. But the trailer definitely does a great job in shocking us and waking us up. And it's like, oh, okay, so Rey gets her share of darkness and that she has to somehow cope with. And maybe Rey is not the savior of the story. Maybe someone else is. Anyway, I've got so many things to say about that, but I can't because I don't want to go into spoilers. And even theories could be spoilers. So anyway, I'm still talking about the Peculiar Bunch. So horror movies. I like to watch movies about anything. They don't have to be religious movies about the life of saints. I usually can't watch those because they're so boring. But for horror movies, I have a different reason why I don't like to watch them, and that's because I am scared of horror movies. I can't watch them. I'm just very, I don't know, sensitive to that sort of stuff. I don't like gore. I don't like shock effects. I hate shock effects. I mean, I've some movies that were not even horror movies, but let's say, for instance, Stranger Things, which has a few horror aspects to the story. When it gets too tense, I usually stop the video and I need another night of sleep. And then I can only watch what happens next the following day when I'm full of energy. And it's just because I don't like those jump scares. I just don't like to be scared. And I'm usually not very scared, but these movies can sometimes really disrupt my sleep. So that's why I don't like to watch horror movies. I know that some people love horror. I can't stand it. Just like very gritty war movies and stuff with excessive violence is something that I don't enjoy watching. So a bit of grittiness is fine, but not too much, not over the top. And then, of course, there is an entire category of movies that I won't watch and that my let's say my condition as a priest would also prevent me from watching. Anything that is just morally wrong and where the movie is made for obvious, how would you say, what's the opposite of moral? Unmoral? Immoral, for immoral purposes, that of course I wouldn't watch that. So the intent of the movie must be to, or at least in my case, must be to tell a story about good and evil, but it should be made with the right intentions to tell a good story. And there is, of course, a genre of movies and TV shows and other media content that is just made to make money, to scandalize, to provoke, So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I don't watch, and even sometimes with the Game of Thrones, especially in the first few seasons, there were moments where I was like, I'm not going to watch this anymore. This is going way too far, and the series still is a bit polarizing for me. I watch it because it's so well done and the storytelling is riveting and it's epic and it's fantasy, but there are also so many things in that story that I really profoundly dislike. That is why I'm so excited about the new Lord of the Rings series on Amazon. If that's going to be the next Game of Thrones, bring it on, because I think that Tolkien is a much better foundation, I think, for good stories. And you will see there's a lot going wrong, just like Frodo, he's tempted by the ring and everything. But it's still the narrator has a good heart and means well with us as the readers. And that's, for me, something that, plays a role, is important to me. And with that, well, we've already naturally progressed to the world of books.
When did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics?
Last night. The packet. The extraction theory papers. Am I the only one who did the reading?
So, reading. I have been reading a new book, actually listening to an audiobook, written by none other than Kate Mulgrew, the actress who is known to me as a Trekkie, most for her role as Catherine Janeway in Voyager, coffee addict and always yelling. but still a good captain. But she also plays Galina Reznikov, also called Red, in Orange is the New Black. A very versatile actress, also a Catholic actress, and someone who's always been very open about her Catholic upbringing. She's from an Irish family, grown up in the United States, and faith is important to her. And so I was eager to read her second autobiography. Her first one talks about her younger years, and it's called Born with Teeth. But this one is just out, and it's called How to Forget, A Daughter's Memoir. This is a biography that she wrote about the time that she went back to her parents to take care of them in their final phase of their lives. Something that, of course, resonates with me because of the situation of my father, who is in the final phase of his life. Doesn't mean that he will die anytime soon, but he's not getting any better, and he knows it and he says it. And my mother is also 78 years old, so both are advanced in age and have their share of challenges. So Kate Mulgrew gets the news that her father has a very aggressive form of cancer, and he dies, I think, 2 weeks after she arrives. And then her mother is suffering from Alzheimer, and it is a progressive disease. And for years, I think, for several years, she takes care of her mother. And she's always been very close with her mother. She was the oldest daughter and was kind of also a confidant of her mother. And actually, her mother told her things that you probably shouldn't tell your kids. And so from that perspective of a daughter who is, in a certain way, at least on a moral level, has made better choices than her own mother, she tells that story of how her mom is gradually deteriorating. But it's not a depressing story. What really shines through, and that's what makes this book so special, is the love that you can feel, the love of a daughter for her parents, but also the love that the parents gave to their children, despite all the challenges and all their mistakes. And that's a story that it makes me feel good. Although there are many things in this story, it's sometimes hard to believe that it's an autobiography because so much happens and so much terrible things happen. I'll spoil one little thing. Kate Mulgrew, being from this Catholic family, learns at the age of 12 that her mother has an affair with the local priest and is not planning on giving that up and hides it for the father. And so Kate and her mother share this secret that is way too big for a 12-year-old child to carry. And it's only much later when a daughter of hers gets cancer and I think dies. That's when her mother comes to her senses and stops the relationship. And so this book is full of stories where Kate Mulgrew discovers that even though she's from a Catholic family and faith and church had a very important role in their lives, that didn't inoculate her parents against sinning and against making really bad choices, and also didn't protect her against the dark sides of the religion that she was brought up with. You see, this is the kind of story that I appreciate because it resembles real life, and in this case, it is reality. It's real life. And the overall message, I haven't finished the book yet, but I think that the overall message of the book tries to be that despite our flaws, despite our troubles and our sins, love is stronger than that. And so I recommend it already on the basis of what I've read so far. The book is called How to Forget, A Daughter's Memoir, written by Kate Mulgrew. Time for some science fiction? Yeah, science fiction time. Actually, do I have something to talk about? Yes, we need to talk a little bit more about D23, the expo in Anaheim. I wish I lived in that area. Because, of course, there was not only the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, or The Mandalorian, but there was one more announcement that took me by surprise and made me super excited for the future of Star Wars.
I see aliens. Little aliens from outer space.
And how are things in outer Plutonia?
How many
times have I told you not to wear your space boots in the house?
For the shape I'm in, you can donate my body to science fiction.
Get your suit on! We need you!
Because lo and behold, enters the stage a very, very, very popular Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Mr. Ewan McGregor. Hello there. And he announces that he's going to be back for a series about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that is the best news for, at least for Disney Plus. I think that is more exciting than The Mandalorian, also more exciting than the Rogue One prequel that they're filming, even though the stories about that series are also very good. I'm really, really enjoying that they're bringing back some of those actors and some of the vibe of Rogue One. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, that beats everything. And Ewan McGregor is still so popular. He was, for many people, the actor that redeemed the prequels. And even though there are many cringe-worthy scenes and lots of cringe-worthy dialogue and acting, but not Ewan McGregor, his Obi-Wan Kenobi was really, really good. And so he's back, and we will get to see more of the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi between the end of... I think this is going to be after Episode 3 and before A New Hope. So there are a lot of things to fill in there. And then, of course, in the expanded universe, there were already a lot of stories about this maturing Obi-Wan Kenobi. And maybe they will still take some cues from those stories. They've done that before with, let's say, Admiral Thrawn and stuff like that. But they also have a blank canvas to tell new stories. And so, and now that Ewan McGregor is involved, you can bet that they will put everything they have into that new production. And here's something else that I hope will happen. You know that I was a huge fan of Solo, the movie. I think that movie flopped for the wrong reasons, because it was a really good story. I had my certain points of criticism, but overall, I loved what they did. And of course, the movie ends with a cliffhanger. Darth Maul is alive. He's back. And here's what I hope. That promise of more Darth Maul, more of this story will be fulfilled in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We need to see what happens next. And I'm even hoping that they will bring back Alden Ehrenreich and her name escapes me. Anyway, you know who I mean. But some of the actors of Solo. Maybe not for the entire season, because then it would be very expensive. But just like the Rebels did, at the end of a season, bring like a cameo or a surprise appearance of one of those stars. I think somehow, and I don't know how, because of course, obviously, Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't really know Han Solo. Or is that just a certain point of view? Maybe he did know Han Solo, and that's how he found him in Mos Eisley. We don't know for sure that Obi-Wan Kenobi is telling the truth to Luke or to us. So maybe they do have a common backstory. Although I don't think so, because Han is very negative about Obi-Wan. Where did you dig up this old fossil? So he seems to, but maybe he doesn't recognize Obi-Wan. That's possible. Although, I don't know. Anyway. But I want to see more of Han Solo as well. Or maybe this series will whet our appetite and will, I don't know, there will be a groundswell and a kind of re-appreciation for Solo, and we will get to see Solo too, because I think we need to see that. How did I get... Oh, yeah, we're still doing the science fiction segment. But before I wrap up the show...
We are on the cutting edge of technology.
Wow. Well, what does that mean?
Let's plug it in. It's going to say, hey, I see you plugged in a new device. And it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner build... Whoa.
Well, all your technology stuff, it just ends in disaster.
But there is one more thing.
All this technology stuff ends in disaster. Yeah. You kind of know that when you're using computers. The question is not if something will fail, a hard drive or a system or a motherboard, but when. And that when happened to me last Friday when I came back from a day of filming, and I was tired and I wanted to just sit and browse a little bit and watch some YouTube videos, catch up on some of my favorite vloggers, and I'm greeted with the blue screen of death. And this is the Windows 10 version, so it's false hope what they give you. So they show you this like something went wrong, and here's what you can do. You can click on this, and then we'll try to fix that. Or you can deinstall the latest quality update of Windows, and then, things may be all right. Or you can click this button. They give you like 6 or 7 choices. And then every time you click on a button like that, it's like, oh, we're sorry, since something is still wrong, this didn't work, try this. And then you try that, and you get your hopes up. And then it's like, oh, sorry, no, it doesn't work, it's still broken. And then I end up with the only other option, and that is to do a complete reinstall of Windows 10. Fortunately, it let me save my documents folder and some of my files. Like I have, for instance, Steam, and my games are installed on another hard drive on a different partition. So all that was still in place. But it's just incredible that you think you're safe, and you think that Windows is much better than its predecessors because it won't break. And this was not a hardware failure. This was the software itself. This was the system itself that went kaput. And I know that because now that I've reinstalled it, everything works flawlessly. And you know what? It wasn't that bad in the end, because the system that is on my home PC has been on it since I built that computer, and it's 5 years old or something like that. So it's a pretty old computer. Fortunately, at the time, I chose an i7 processor, so it's still speedy enough. I've got a new graphics card, a 1060, that is quite good, and you don't need much processing power for games. The graphics card is much more important. So I was really happy with the computer, and it can still last for a few more years, I think. But the system was kind of polluted because I've installed drivers and deinstalled and reinstalled programs, and so all that, of course, is never good for the system. So I now have a clean install of the operating system of Windows 10, and then I have to just reinstall the apps that I use the most. And the first thing, of course, that I install is a browser, a decent browser, and I can go to the cloud and pick up all my favorites and stuff like that. So I'm very grateful that most of my stuff is now in the cloud somewhere. It's online. It's on my YouTube channel. I used to use Dropbox, but I completely stepped away from it because they were so greedy and try to extort money from their free users. But their proposition was terrible, so I moved over to Google Drive, and that works fine for now. I have lots of stuff, like my photos are in Google Photos. So there are a lot of external things, and then I had also, of course, the luck of having stored a lot of my gaming stuff on other hard drives, SSDs that I built in. So that saves me a lot of download time. But hey, I'm on a fiber connection, so even re-downloading stuff doesn't take much time. And then you kind of also re-evaluate which programs you use on a regular basis. I had a lot of stuff installed that I never launched, and so maybe this is a blessing in disguise. But it still freaks me out seeing a blue screen of death, and then. Always the same. You post that on Facebook, and I was genuinely asking for advice because I didn't know. I have never experienced this in Windows 10. And you always get the same people. You may be one of them. It says, oh, here's the solution. Install Linux. Dude, I was not asking for that. I'm asking for a way to fix Windows 10. I have no intention to install Linux, even though that may be a good operating system, but that's not an answer. It's not. I don't think that's very charitable. Or buy a Mac. First of all, I have been working with Macs since I was in seminary. I probably worked with Macs before you were even born, and Macs also break down, and also I've had my share of broken motherboards and software crashing and screens giving up. And actually with Apple, the price tag for repairs was 2, 3, 4 times as high as in any PC that I've ever owned. So yeah, don't do that when someone asks for advice. Well, hey, just buy a Mac. It's like someone struggling with health, and then saying, I'm not sure if this is a good analogy, actually. Go get yourself a personal trainer. Well, maybe I am not able to afford that. Maybe that doesn't work for me. Or someone who's overweight and is struggling to lose weight and say, well, just stop eating. Don't do that. Okay, that was my little rant at the end of this show. It's time to wrap things up. I've been talking for an hour. Even though the people that are watching me online probably didn't see the entire hour because the hardware was breaking down here. The camera didn't function. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube and you wonder what the real version of this show is, go over to Tridio.com and subscribe to the podcast. See you next week. Okay. That is number one. And now the after show. Hello and welcome to the after show. I'm Father Roderick. And as usual, a big thank you to all of you that are listening to this, because the fact that you're listening to this means that you're a patron. And I try to take some time every week to record a special podcast for you, in which I always also go back to the chat room because I'm live streaming this. And people ask questions because they don't always know that I'm recording a podcast. Some people think that I'm just doing YouTube streaming. But I am not always able to react live to the questions that people ask me or to their comments. So let me start with that and see what's happening in the chat. John is thanking me for reacting to the Mandalorian trailer. And so I had to tell him that I actually also recorded a reaction video to the episode 9 trailer or special reel or whatever. So go check that out. Some people really like the dark Rey, and yeah, well, I like it because it's unexpected and it's shocking. So that is very, very cool. And then lots and lots of theories in the chat about what's truly happening, and people telling me that the video is frozen and read the comments, and yeah. Boyzen, is that Boyzen? I think it's Boys as an I. He's from the Netherlands, and he says, wow, I had no idea that you were so fluent in English. In the American way, then. Well, thank you so much. I get all flustered by that. So anyway, and also didn't know that I had a podcast. And true, that's not something that I always post on Facebook or and podcasting. You got to kind of be a podcast listener to stumble upon podcasts. The discovery aspect of podcasting is very, very weak, has always been weak. I've been podcasting since 2005, and I haven't had a substantial increase of listeners over the past 5 years. And it's just because discovery is hard. That's why I'm doing so much YouTube, because YouTube, thanks to the algorithm and thanks to the visual nature of video, is much easier to reach new audiences. Michael writes, hello, Father, I have a question. If you can, I hope you can answer. Do you ever watch horror movies based on Catholicism, like The Omen, The Rite, and The Exorcist? So this is kind of a variant on the question that was asked yesterday and that I tried to answer on the show, on the regular show. Do I watch horror movies? And it's true that, for instance, The Rite is based on real-life experiences or stories about exorcisms. And so is The Exorcist. A lot of the things that the priest does in the movie The Exorcist are part of the ritual. Still, in that movie, they show the old ritual because the exorcism rituals have been renewed. But it's still based on what priests report is part of their experience. I've watched some of those, mostly because I want to study what's happening, and of course I don't have any personal experience with exorcisms, and every diocese has one or more exorcists that are specialized in that. But I'm not one of those priests, and they also are bound to secrecy because a lot of that, of course, is forum internum, and they can't speak about it. But that doesn't mean that this is not happening in reality in the church and in the world. I'm still contemplating doing one of these days a YouTube series where I react to priests on screen. So you see a lot of, especially in older movies, you see oftentimes a priest hearing confession or advising people or celebrating a wedding and in this case performing an exorcism. And it would be interesting, I think, to give an expert criticism or a review of the way in which priests are depicted in movies. And it could be fun. I watched some of those series on YouTube done by doctors, for instance, that comment on House MD or something like that. I always learn something from those videos, and maybe that is something that could serve or have some educational benefits for my followers on YouTube. But and in that context, I may have to watch some of those creepy movies featuring priests. But right now, I'm not. There's so much more cool, positive, cheerful stuff to watch. So yeah, horror movies definitely not something I will volunteer watching. We've been talking during the weekly show about beef and how much of a footprint that has. And it's true, it's not only the destruction of the rainforests in the Amazon that is one of the consequences of our overconsumption of beef, but also cattle itself is very polluting. The methane gas that emerges from raising cattle is much more damaging than other forms of pollution. And the production of the cattle in the world is a substantial part of the entire pollution in the world. So something will have to change. Jack Hamilton wants to know why C-3PO had a red arm. That is explained in the comics, and it's very funny that in this trailer he has red eyes. So I'm waiting for the line, you may not recognize me because of the red eyes, but I am C-3PO at your service. But yeah, it's probably something that will be either be explained in the context of the movie or in a comic. Jamie says, I honestly love beef. I also love chicken. I tend to swing towards eating chicken more often. Chicken is way less polluting than beef, but it's all a matter of habits. And I've gone through a time where I went completely vegan as an experiment. I even ran a marathon on a vegan diet, and it really opened my eyes on how much meat I was eating before that. And I never really totally switched back to my old habits. And I've drastically reduced meat and started experimenting with other ingredients for my cooking, and that's been such an enrichment of my culinary life that I don't think I can ever switch back to. Like I remember visiting Texas when I was still a young Star Wars fan, and being just stunned by the huge chunks of beef that people would consume. Like this first evening I was in Dallas, they gave me this ribeye steak, and it just was as big as the plate itself. I'd never seen so much meat in one meal before, and I've never seen it afterwards either. So anyway, I'm glad I got the video back, so people are cheering in the comments. Alex Zenou is there from France. I always like it when people are joining the chat from other countries, so then I can show off that I also speak a little bit of français. Oui, oui. Disney Plus will premiere on the same day in the Netherlands as in the US and Canada, says Sutrabla. I know that. It's really a gift. I'm so happy about that. November the 12th. And then Michael is soliciting gifts for a good camera for Father Roderick while he's podcasting. Just become a patron. That'll help. It's thanks to the patrons that I can every once in a while get some new equipment, like these headphones that I'm currently wearing were paid thanks to my patrons. This microphone is from patron donations. And also this device that you can't see when you're watching this live, the Rode Podcaster Pro or the Rodecaster Pro is also something that I was able to afford thanks to the patrons. So you are helping me with your monthly donations. What if Luke is the real chosen one? Or because Kylo is the real chosen one. That's possible too. It's possible that Kylo is going to have an unexpected role. I think we're going to have a lot of twists in this final story. That's totally J.J. Abrams. He knows to do that like no other. And then, of course, my phone crashed again, or the app crashed, and now they were staring at my home screen for an hour, and then I fixed that. In the new footage, says Daniel, Rey seems older. Maybe it isn't Rey at all, but her mom. Maybe. That's another option. Maybe the dark Rey is not Rey at all. It could also be a vision. Could be... like when Luke Skywalker was tested in the tree on Dagobah and thought he was killing Darth Vader, and it turns out that he was the guy in a mask. Archie is saying hi from Warsaw in Poland. The Lego boys there. I got a lot of Lego fans also helping or enjoying the stream. I hope to reach a bigger Lego audience with the building, and there too I really need a better camera because I'm using this old Logitech webcam and it's not very light sensitive, so it's always too dark in that room. Archie wants to know if I still have the VR helmet for the PlayStation 4. No, I don't have that. But I do have the Oculus Go, which was, by the way, on sale on the German Amazon store the other day. It's still an amazing device, and it's just the precursor of so much cool technology in the years to come. Let's see. We have Remixy from Germany. It says Guten Abend, and Alex is there from Chile. Saying, hola, padre. Hola. ¿Cómo está? Todo bien. I need to study more Spanish. The Falcon is looking great, according to Just a Little Podcast. That's a screen name, obviously. And that's true. The Falcon is coming together, and I may finish it today or tomorrow. Well, not today, because it's already almost 9 p.m. I was supposed to get out of the office after lunch. And it's 9 p.m. I'm still podcasting. Oh, well. Blame Star Wars. The dark electric blue color of the sky in the Star Destroyers part looks great in the trailer. Yes, it does. It does. I think these Star Destroyers, they look different from Kylo's Star Destroyers. These look more like classic Star Destroyers. So something tells me that the Emperor has a hand in maintaining this fleet. Or maybe it's just abandoned ships. Who knows? Let's see. What else have we got? For blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Some more people talking about Star Wars. What would you think if the Rise of Skywalker ends with the credits with Rey on the dark side? I would not appreciate that, and that should not happen. I'm very, very firm in that. No dark side Rey. Please. Begging you, please, 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 please. Did you watch season 3 of Stranger Things? I'm in the middle of watching that, but I've got a few other series that I'm watching at the same time, so I'm kind of taking it slowly. Seth says, I was in the army. I had a night of horror with a scorpion. Ooh, scary. Scary. Have you seen the new Tarantino movie? The Hollywood one? No, I haven't seen that yet. I just watched your reaction. This is our family. I just watched your reaction to the trailer, and now we're hooked on you. That's cool. These reaction videos always bring in new people, and welcome. I hope you feel welcome. Soup Trabla watched Solo for the first time last week and enjoyed it. That's cool. Someone else says, we already see Maul meet Obi-Wan for the first time since Clone Wars in Rebels, so I don't think Maul is involved in the new series. Maybe you're right. Yeah, it's true that Obi-Wan also supposedly didn't know the droids, didn't recognize R2-D2, which of course was a lie, or just a matter of a different perspective. Adam also doesn't think Darth Maul will be in the Obi-Wan series, as Darth Maul spends the entire time during Rebels trying to track down Obi-Wan. Maybe. But we don't really... Do we know the time frame for this Obi-Wan series? This may take place after Rebels, right? Anyway. A bit about evil C-3PO. I actually think the red eyes are a mode. Maybe C-3PO has a battle mode that he never activated before, because there is still this one picture of C-3PO carrying a gun. So maybe he has a more violent personality inside that golden shell. Who knows? Anyway, what do I think of the way that Disney has taken Star Wars? I think they do a good job. Yeah, I don't understand all the hate. Without Disney, we wouldn't have Star Wars. We wouldn't have these new series. If it were up to George Lucas, and we know what he was planning for episodes 7, 8, 9, that would have been the end of Star Wars, because he really is a master in having bad ideas. So no, I'm really glad. And of course, not everything is perfect. But I think that Disney has shown time and again that they are masterful storytellers, and I'm very confident that they will continue to be that for Star Wars as well. Bonjour Radagast Studio from France, and Ika Rodriguez from Mexico. So, have I watched Avengers Endgame? Yes. Do I like anime? Asks CB. It depends. There are some really awesome anime movies like The Moving Castle and Totoro and Ghibli Studio stuff. I love that. And there are even some series that I really enjoy. So, and then Slimeball 444 is like, wait, there is an Obi-Wan series? Yeah, welcome to the world. Go check your news. It's all over the internet. You can't miss it. And with that, I think it is time to wrap things up. I'm getting hungry. I need to eat. It is 9:00 p.m. Hopefully you enjoyed this despite all the technical troubles with the camera. And hope you enjoyed this also as a podcast if you are one of my patrons. I will see you soon. Take care. May the force be with you, and God bless. And that's a wrap. I'll post this tomorrow, okay? I'm tired now. Yeah. I'm going to post this.